Jackie opened her lips and the whole set became quiet. It wasn't the usual back-and-forth shade or one of her usual ridiculous storylines. The others weren't like this. There was weight in her voice. As if she were about to utter something that no one was ready to hear, she glanced at Chantel and Evelyn. Fans who saw the live footage stated they could feel the tension in the air before the words were said. Timelines were flooded with whispers within minutes, and the room was the first to hear them. Jackie said that Evelyn and the same guy had dated Chantel and a man who had a close relationship with the inner circle, not just any man, on camera. Witnesses said the two froze in their chairs, their expressions showing a combination of anger, surprise, and something no one could quite figure out. The cameras caught every look, every flutter. By the time the producers tried to defuse the situation, the crowd had already pulled out their phones and was recording every comment they could. The disclosure did more than just set off a series of chaotic events. It will be hard to overlook their response to side conversations, denials, and accusations. Whatever it is, this shared secret has the power to ruin more than just friendships. Jackie's words weren't only said. They plummeted with a bang, like a weight no one was ready to bear. A cacophony of whispers that became louder by the second followed the audience's first gasps that broke the silence. Evelyn blinked once more, her body motionless in the chair. Her hands stopped in mid-gesture. Chantel opened her lips to say something, but nothing came out. Now every movement and alteration in their expressions was captured by the harsher camera lights. With the poise that only comes after throwing a bombshell that no one else saw coming, Jackie leaned back in her chair. She didn't shout. She spoke the same thing more than once. She just let the words hang like smoke in the room. The actors was still, but there was the faint sound of a producer's voice in the distance, trying to indicate a halt. The rest of the table seemed caught between interest and horror. Not everyone looked up. Individuals as if they were waiting for one of them to blow up or reject it. They glanced from Evelyn to Chantel. Evelyn eventually broke the stillness. Her voice was low and steady. The voice you use while you're attempting to control your anger. You're lying, Jackie. I don't know what you're talking about. Jackie's eyebrows shot up slightly, almost in laughter. Yes, I understand exactly what I'm talking about. You two are also aware. I have no doubt about that. As she turned her head, Chantel's words relieved the tension, suddenly to Jackie. Please don't include me in the story you're trying to write. I don't have time for your made-up drama. Jackie's lips curled into a little smile. It's funny because the story isn't made. I didn't have to look for it. Not just once either did others who had witnessed things come to me. As she emphasized the last word, the crowd leaned in closer. As seen on video, Evelyn's gaze darted to Chantel. A glance that would be slowed down and scrutinized later web lovers, frame by frame. Chantel caught it too. What does that look mean? As she asked, her voice lifted a little. Evelyn was slow to answer. All Jackie needed to do was wait for that break before continuing. It shows that she knows this has nothing to do with its truthfulness. It has to do with how much other people already know. The studio audience responded audibly with a combination of delight and astonishment. A few of the crews moved awkwardly, clearly aware that when it went online, this would be the clip that everyone would be talking about. Evelyn exhaled deeply, then leaned forward to look directly at Jackie. Jackie gave an indifferent shrug. Even for someone who has dedicated their career to manipulating situations to get attention, this is low. With her arms crossed, Chantel added, "Call it low if you want, but you can't call it a lie." Her tone was severe, but her face showed a little trace of pain. So to whom are you addressing this hidden lover? Jackie tilted her head as if enjoying the moment. Because you had better have more than a few hazy clues if you're going to drag my name through the mud, she said. The crowd erupted in a roar at that moment, almost drowning out the microphones, and the other women at the table looked at one another, some talking to the person next to them, others covering their mouths to hide their emotions. Yes, I do have a name. You just aren't ready for me to say it aloud in my opinion, but you know who it is. You two do. With Evelyn's eyes narrowing and her fingers tapping the table lightly, Jackie leaned in and said, "If you're so sure, then say it. Go ahead." You won't because you know you're playing with fire. The only reason I didn't say anything was that I'm giving you both a chance to be honest before I do, but it's okay if you keep acting like you're not. Keep in mind that you're not the only one who knows. Furthermore, her calmness stood in sharp contrast to the increasing animosity between Evelyn and Connell. Connell comments, "I have nothing to be truthful about," as the voice becomes increasingly stern. You may thus keep whatever story you think you have. Her foot, however, tapped beneath the table as she spoke. There was a slight agitated movement that was not missed. Evelyn also saw, and before she could speak again, her lips tightened. The same is true here. This nonsense will not be respected by me. Both of them are at fault. The remark landed, and both women tensed slightly, but it was unclear if it was intended to provoke. The magnetic tension at the table completely diverted the focus from whatever the segment's initial topic had been. Jackie's eyes gently shifted between them, her stillness conveying more information than words could. Somewhere in the back, someone mumbled just loudly enough for the microphones to pick it up, and the audience's whispers grew again. Focus. It was about the possibility that two women who had built their careers on strength, independence, and control would end up in the same scandal. The worst thing for them was that Jackie wasn't giving up. She didn't have to fight or scream. She just let the weight of her assertion push the job aside. When a producer made a last-ditch move to switch to a commercial, the director shook their head. It's moments like these that are what make television so great. The camera stayed focused on the subject, recording every breath, eye contact, and change in posture. Evelyn turned to face Chantel again, and Chantel turned to face her. They both remained silent for a moment, but their faces spoke louder than words could. Jackie then leaned forward again, resting her elbows on the table, and spoke in a barely audible whisper, but it was enough to draw everyone's attention. The fact that neither of you was aware of the other Jackie's final statement was met with an immediate and electrifying response, with the audience gasping louder and some even letting out little yells as if they had just witnessed a slow-motion car crash. Evelyn's eyes narrowed into a scowl that might have broken glass after briefly widening, while Chantel sat motionless, but the tension in her jaw revealed the storm that was building inside her. The ensuing hush wasn't void, as everyone in the room felt the weight of it. Up until now is the funniest part, she continued softly. Like a lightning strike that no one could avoid. This is about two women who have been living in the same lie without even realizing it. Jackie leaned back in her seat, her poise almost haughty, as if she had practiced this very moment. You see, I'm not trying to stir up rumors or anything. She came to a halt, letting her words settle like dust after an explosion. Pot for the cameras. Evelyn's voice broke through the tension like a whip. And now you both have to face the truth. The truth, Jackie. The only truth here is that you will say anything to stay relevant. You have been pursuing influence since the day you arrived, and this is just another of your pathetic games. But the slight shudder beneath her voice was not completely hidden, and it was immediately apparent to the audience. Again, rumors started to circulate, murmurs that sounded more like speculation than denial. Finally, Chantel spoke in a composed yet determined tone. Say his name if you have such faith in this tale. Let's see whether you're ready to go forward. Her smirk returned as her eyes glinted. Yes, I will mention his name, but I believe you are already familiar with it. The last thing you want is to hear it aloud. Evelyn hit the table with her palm. Everyone was startled by the sudden noise. Give up gaming and spit it out. Chaos ensued in the room as the audience cheered and chanted, with some shouting, "Say it!" and others, "Avoid doing that." Every wide-eyed response was captured by Kay and the cameras. Jackie looked at the crowd as though she was also assessing the weather. Give them the reward they begged for. Are you serious? With a playful tone, she asked. Tioni? She asked. The crowd roared back, and then she looked back at Evelyn and Chantel with agonizing slowness. Lying, Jackie said, echoing. Funny, since he told me personally. Of course, he didn't say it directly, but he didn't have to. It was evident in the way he spoke about each of you and how his tale changed as he relaxed. Evelyn raised her voice and shook her head. I have a history with Marcus. He's not my guy, however. And anything you believe to be true is incorrect. Past events? You can rely on it. Since you seem to have been much more recent than history from where I am standing, Chantel. History from where I am standing, Chantel. The studio had completely changed from angry but controlled words to electric, dense, and erratic energy. I've seen them both, the statement reads. On the same day, they were both with the same guy. Didn't just hang there. She raised her hand slightly as if swearing an invisible oath, like a stone dropped into quiet water. They fell heavily. First, from somewhere in the audience, there came the sound of a quick breath. Then there were sporadic gasps, and then the room was filled with a low, rumbling hum. Her hair flung over her shoulder as Chantel's head jerked toward her. What did you just say? You heard me. Same day, same man. Both of you. Evelyn's expression softened for a moment before hardening again, her eyes narrowing as if she was searching her mind for a safe answer, the muscles in her jaw so tense that they could move beneath her skin. Some audience members tried to stealthily take pictures of her face, but Jackie responded more slowly and thoughtfully. Her voice was steady, but every word was harsh because of the heat that was buried inside it. She smirked and leaned back in her chair, folding her arms, and didn't care. She was hiding. You see, I'm not the only one who says that. It has now been confirmed by someone else who has no reason to lie. She enjoyed the words as they came out. She looked from Evelyn to Chantel, like a predator who knows they've already been caught. Hell got up and pushed her chair back firmly. The sound of the wood scraping attracted even more attention, hitting the studio floor. This has to do with betrayal. Rumors are no longer relevant here, she went on, her fists quivering in anger instead of fear. And I'm not just talking about between us. Marcus is the source of this. Staring us in the eyes and pretending nothing was amiss, he has been lying to us both. And he thought we would never learn. Evelyn's palm was pushed hard against the table, revealing the tendons in her fingers. In spite of her voice stayed solid despite a tiny wobble. And you think I'm happy about this? You think I knew? I'm his victim too, Chantel. Don't make yourself the only one here who's been wronged. We both have. The audience's reaction was immediate. Some agreed and admitted that both ladies had been played. Evelyn didn't seem outraged in her comments. Some whispered. They sounded like an unspoken admission. Chantel's brow lifted. A little cynical smile appeared on her lips. Then you're admitting it? You're admitting there's something out there? Evelyn hit back right away. I admit that we were both duped by him. Don't use what I said as your own catchphrase. Jackie's chuckle was low, cold, and fleeting. Take a look at it. Whoa, two women could not stand each other for years? Understanding all of that, they have been fighting the wrong guy all of a sudden. Someone in the audience shouted, "Bring Marcus out." K. The tension between those who wanted a resolution and those who wanted the drama to continue to grow had become a tug of war. And there was a mixture of clapping and drink. Chanel single-quoted, "Yes, I will visit him. I promise I will," as the voice broke through the din. "But that doesn't change the fact that you were seeing him when he was with me," she continued. Pointing at Evelyn with her elbows firmly in place, Evelyn, who was leaning forward on the table, looked directly at Chantel. "And you were seeing him when he was with me," she said. "In this case, don't pretend like you're better than me. We have both been tricked. There are others besides you two. Marcus has dated more than just you two. Maybe more than one other woman." The previous speaker approached the table, clearly enjoying her newfound power. The crowd fell into one statement, and chaos again. People jump out of their seats, shouting names and making audacious predictions. Some wanted the woman to keep the mystery intact, while others demanded her identities. Chantel gave Jackie her full attention. Jackie's tone was cool but harsh, and she cocked her head slightly. "I had bits of knowledge. I put them together, and I took my time until I was ready to present them. And since you two now understand exactly what you're dealing with, you're welcome." Evelyn lost her patience. "You could have told me or her privately, but you chose to wait until you had an audience because you like being in the middle of the chaos." Jackie smiled wider. "The story is the main focus, not me. Marcus was to blame for this mess. I just exposed the truth." Half of the audience cheered. She took a deep, steady breath, aware that the moment was still on the verge of something more, and she looked at Evelyn with a mixture of bitterness and reluctant recognition. "We're not done talking about this," she said flatly, while Evelyn nodded slowly once and said, "Not with each other," with a mysterious expression. Jackie and the other half cheered her, but everyone's eyes were still on the table. "Not with him. No, we're not." There were many uncertainties in the air regarding whether what they were about to say next would you both think you will be in charge of the story's future development, but you are not in charge of it. A low murmur of restless energy filled the room as the noise level started to climb again. By changing their focus, camera operators were able to capture every small expression. As they looked at each other for a few seconds, Jackie's voice was lower now, but still audible across the table as she leaned back with her eyes sparkling. A brief, anxious moment, it seemed as though even the air had become still as the door behind Gentle clicked shut, causing a pause between Evelyn and Gentle. As if he was preparing his next move, his eyes scanned the room, focusing on Evelyn, Chantel, and finally Jackie. Chantel's voice, which was sharp enough, broke the silence first. "Look, who decided to come? Good, because we have a lot to talk about." Marcus walked to the table without turning away. "Speak." There are charges against you. Important distinction. Marcus narrowed his gaze and stopped short of the table. Some people hear his eyes flick to Jackie, so it depends on who you've been listening to. They're good at turning partial truths into a full-fledged circus. His jaw was tense, but his words were calm and measured, and the footage the cameras captured was perfect. Evelyn leaned back on her chair with her arms folded and her chin up a little. Half-truths only cause pain when the other half is equally bad, she said. And judging by the way you're standing there, you're not exactly clean in this, Marcus said, placing both palms flat on the table and closing the space between them with a tone of satisfaction. Should I provide this circus an explanation, in your opinion? Chantel sat forward and stared at him closely. No, but since my name has already been tarnished in front of a live audience, here is the whole situation for those of you who are unaware. I am enough knowledgeable. I understand. There are real witnesses who say, and I know that. You were with me in the afternoon and with her, she remarked, gesturing to Evelyn that same evening. The crowd instantly replied. The shuffle of people leaning closer, the gasps and shouts. And do you believe them over me? Evelyn said before Chantel could reply. Marcus's eyes stayed on Chantel as one of the guys in the front row muttered, "Damn," under his breath. Bought enough for a mic to catch it. Her voice cracked now, just enough to make others shift in their chairs. Marcus's jaw tightened as he said, "Perhaps if you had told us before everyone else did, we would have believed you. The reality is more difficult than you would think. Let me explain. You both meant different things to me, and although I may have made errors, I didn't want to harm you." Those last remarks just made the situation worse. "So, you're admitting it," shouted someone in the chorus, then started to half yell, "Come on," adding, "It's complicated." The truth doesn't fit into neat little sound bites that get reactions from the crowd. And you've been waiting for this moment, waiting to throw fuel on the fire. Marcus turned his head toward her, his voice low but sharp, producing a sound that seemed to be pressing against the walls with one side screaming liar. This is precisely what happens when you try to run the same game with two different people. Congratulations, Jackie. Chantel's question hit like a slap, and the audience sat down, leaning forward and phones tilted up, trying to catch his reaction. Evelyn's posture instantly stiffened and she said, "You've got your big scene." Jackie leaned back just enough to show she wasn't rattled. "My big scene isn't the problem." Chantel's voice cut through like a blade. "The problem is that your different ways overlapped, and now you've got to face that without hiding behind half-truths." Chantel remained still, her face unreadable. Waiting, ... Finally, Marcus whispered, "That's not a question I can answer here." Evelyn hesitated for a second before catching herself. Alcohol erupted instantly. Some people laughed while others yelled, "Insults." The lady in the front said, "That means you can answer it to just don't want to. Then you've already answered it," Evelyn said in a flat tone as she slowly stood up, her chair making a sound that could be heard over the din of the crowd. She didn't stop, walking around the table without giving Marcus another look, passing him so close that her shoulder touched his arm. "You don't get to dodge this forever. Not with me, not with her, not with anyone who's seen this." Who stayed? HNL single quotes as eyes follow her before snapping back to Marcus. Single quotes as eyes follow her before snapping back to Marcus. Jackie leaned forward, her voice low but carrying, and his eyes dropped to the surface as if the right words might be carved there. The crowd sensed that the game wasn't even close to being over, and instead, it increased. People whispered, and theories were tossed around. The next move was to wonder if Marcus would try towing one of them back or lose them both. No one was willing to believe that this was the last time something explosive would happen between these three. Jackie sat back, a tiny smile curling at her lips, watching Marcus silently calculating. Chantel didn't look away, and for a moment it felt like the entire room was holding its breath, waiting to see which way he would turn. He stopped just before he reached the exit, turned halfway back and stared at the door. The crowd moaned and yelled at the same time. The fallout was instantaneous, with clips of Marcus's hesitation making the rounds on the internet within minutes. Chantel's for a long, loaded second before switching to Evelyn, who was standing by the side of the stage watching from a distance occasionally. Marcus then walked out, shaking his head slightly as he did so. The door closed behind him, making the same slow, heavy sound it had made when it opened, but the room didn't calm down. If anything, it increased tension as everyone there realized that his exit wasn't the end, but rather the pause before something even bigger broke. Fans slowed down and scrutinized every frame, wondering if his silence was due to guilt, fear, or strategy. After Marcus left, the studio's noise level doubled, as evidenced by the way people moved and the way conversations overlapped so quickly that they became a single chaotic hum. Chantel stayed at the table, her arms folded, her jaw set tight, her eyes fixed on the floor as if she were replaying every second in her head. Jackie sat back with that same quiet smile, the one that made it impossible to tell if she was satisfied or already planning the next hit. You've seen the moments, heard the words, and seen the reactions in real time. Please share your thoughts in the comments section, because every detail matters in a case like this. Some people said they saw regret in Marcus's eyes as he turned back to Chantel, while others said he was looking at Evelyn as if he was afraid of losing her completely. And with that, we leave you with more questions than answers. Will Marcus come forward to clear his name, or has he already decided on his next move in silence? You won't want to miss what happens, so please click the like button, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. I swear. Bonus.